Hey, it's Tim. This is Quantum Komposer, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the melody generator inside of Quantum Komposer. It's called Notes. Notes is quite similar to Beats, so if you haven't watched the Beats tutorial, I recommend doing that first. In this tutorial we're just going to go over what's different in Notes as compared to Beats. Also, this tutorial, Making Melodies, is the first in a sub-series of 3 tutorials making chord progressions and making harmonies, and I recommend you watch them in that order. Making Melodies, this tutorial, followed by making chord progressions, then making harmonies. So in the menu system at the top here, where I have an instance of notes, at the bottom I have an instance of control. You see the menu system is quite similar. I can come across to the key scales section, and we're going to route our MIDI directly to instruments rather than to chords, as we'll see how to do in the third of these tutorials, making harmonies. Now I can select a root note for a scale. Let's perhaps choose F, and I can select a scale. So let's choose natural minor. The MIDI out channels are set to 5, 6, 7 and 8, and so Notes has 4 independent channels for sequences, and you can route each of those to a different MIDI channel. So we're routing them to 5, 6, 7 and 8, and that means they're going to trigger different instruments. We're going to focus on generating melodies in the sequence generation mode here, but it still might be useful to enter the steps menu, even if you're going to use that method, because from here we can select a channel, and we can also select a step rate. So for this channel, I'm going to select my step rate to 16ths. So coming back to the menu and going into sequence generation, you'll see I have a channel knob again. We'll select channel 1, and if I go down to control, just to clarify, I have 4 channels, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and I've set them up as 5, 6 with bass instruments, and 7 is more like a pad, and 8 is our kind of lead sound. So coming back to notes, we'll set, you can set the range for your notes, and that influences velocity and CC values. But instead of having kick, snare, hi-hat and percussion patterns, we have an option to generate rhythm, an option to generate melody, and an option to generate arps. We're going to focus on melody and rhythm. The arps one we'll do in the Making Harmonies tutorial. So we'll select it to rhythm, and all we need to do is press use the generation knob to generate a pattern. But just before we do that, let's quickly just come back and see we've got 3 scenes. In the first scene, I have a kick and a shaker we built in a previous tutorial. And in the second scene, we've got our drum beat. And in the third scene, we've got a percussion loop being triggered by segments. So what we want to do is make a new scene and add to that scene with our melody generator. So we'll hit copy scene, and now we'll navigate to scene 4, and we'll hit paste to scene 4. And if we select scene 4, we should now have the same sequences. So when you use control to copy a scene, it copies all scene durations, but it also copies across all your note sequences in all other Quantum Komposer instances. Pretty cool. So let's hit the shift menu and come to sequence generation, and now we're ready to generate. So we just turn the generate knob and we have some notes generated. Let's press play. Okay, so that's not too bad. Let's move the rhythm over to melody and generate some melody. So it's going to not change the rhythm, but it'll change the notes. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that for now. Let's come back to rhythm and say, well, that's good, but I wish it had something happening in the first beat of this 1-bar sequence. So with this beats 1 to 4 knob, we can set whereabouts we want rhythm to generate and melody to generate. Currently it's set to beats 1 to 4, which means it's going to generate across the whole sequence. But if we bring this back down to beat 1 and turn our rhythm generating knob, we'll see that notes only get generated in the first beat. And same with the melody. Okay, so that's our first channel done. Let's come back to our channels, and you'll see that I've got channel 5 is a bass instrument and channel 6 is also a bass instrument. I just wanted to show you something a bit different in this one. So let's go to channel 2 and we'll go actually out to our steps mode, and we'll change the rate to 8th notes in this one. And we'll come back to sequence generation, and let's just tap in a note, and before we press play, I'm going to come down to my channel mutes, and I'm going to mute the first bass we made and unmute this new one. Okay, so it's playing a single note. If I press another note, it'll play 2 notes. If I tap it again, you see the note gets an arrow on it, and this is how we can sustain a note. And this is one of the differences between notes and beats. In notes, you can actually sustain notes. And you'll hear that we're actually hearing another note, and you might wonder why that is. And if we have a look, this patch, it's actually an arpeggiator patch, and the arpeggiator is on. So this is why I wanted to demonstrate sustaining notes, because if we have an arpeggiated patch, we can double tap these notes in, and we can use the arpeggiator within our synthesizers. We have no duration here, so let's just change that to 4 bars for this pattern, and come back to sequence gen. And if we now come to melody and beat 3, let's change that so it's generated a new note for that third beat. And if we wanted to do the same for these guys, we can go to beat 2 now and generate something different. Okay, so now you've got, that's how you can use your arpeggiated patches inside of Quantum Komposer. So if I come back to my mutes and we mute that channel, unmute the other one. Alright, so now let's go on to channel 3, and yeah, this is our pad instrument, so we'll come back to the steps mode, and here for channel 3 we'll set the rate to whole notes. Actually, let's set it to quarter notes. We could set it to whole notes, but this way I can show you how to extending sustaining notes again. Right, so if we come back to sequence generation, you can generate here, but it's also possible just to tap in as I showed you. So if we press double tap here, now we should just get a sustained note over the first 4 bars, first bar being 4 quarter notes. Nothing in the last 3 bars. Okay, so let's move on to channel 4. And here we have a lead instrument, so we'll go back to our steps and we'll set this to 1/8 notes, and we'll come back into sequence generation, and we'll first generate a rhythm for all 4 beats, and just keep turning the dial until we get something that we maybe like. Okay, so let's see if we can generate something for beat 2. Okay, so now we'll go to melody and we'll generate some melody, and we'll try beat 1. And on the bass channel, let's just try changing the rate to 1/8 notes. Yeah, sounds a bit more chill. Okay, so now we've got our 4 channels working. I've got the 1 bass muted though. Let's come into mutation, and on channel 4 we can turn the probability of a step being added here. So plus STP 60% means 60% chance a step will be added. If we go up past halfway, you can see it changes to plus minus step. And this means that there's an 8% chance that a step will be added or subtracted. So if we turn this all the way up to 100%, we should now see steps added or subtracted. So you can see that a step is either added or subtracted each time the pattern plays. Let's come back to our bass pattern and do something similar. This time we'll just add a step. We won't take a step away. And you can see it's sort of just evolving subtly each time the sequence loops around. Okay, so now we can be happy with that. If we come back into scenes and patterns, let's go to Shift, copy pattern 1, and we'll move it to here. And I'm now going to use my MIDI controller to just adjust the pattern length to 1 bar for that one, and we'll adjust it to 3 bars for that one. So now when we play this scene, we'll have 3 bars of the first pattern and we'll have 1 bar of the second pattern. At the moment they're the same, so let's just come back in here to sequence generation, and for our bass line, let's generate a different rhythm. Something maybe just a bit busier, and we'll do the same for our melody generation. Let's just generate a different rhythm and melody, and we'll come back to our scenes and have a listen. Let's just come back into the sequence generation for the pad. Maybe we won't have this one in this last bar. We can loop that one, and if we come back into here and channel 1, maybe we can speak 2, because we're on 8th notes, it's only playing the first row. We'll just so cool. So let's come back here and press play. So there you go. That's how you generate melodies with notes and Quantum Komposer. Hope that's of interest and helps you out. I'll see you in the next one.